guys, Autofanatic. I'm going to do a quick road test drive review with you guys of the 57 Chevy Bel Air. We dropped the top. It's beautiful out. And I'm going to give you guys some feedback on how unique and different driving a car that's 61 years old is from a guy that's a performance-oriented enthusiast. So we're going to figure out how to do this video, and we're going to have a little bit of fun, and I'll report back in a few. All right. This is the warm-up process of a vintage car. You got to goose it, give it a little bit of gas, and get it fired up. This car has no power brakes. This is manual drum brakes, which I call the holy shit brakes. We're not going to play around with any of the accessories. There's no nav, there's no Q, there's no Apple CarPlay. This is just, you get in it, and you hope everything else that's here works. So, when it kicks down, that's when you know you're pretty much good to go. Temp gauge is looking good. And here we go, we're off. And even though this car appears to be really, really big, it's really not as big as a modern day car as far as the width and the proportion standard. And with the big steering wheel, it gives you the leverage of, you know, maneuvering such a big car. Sitting in the bench seat, it's identical to sitting in a pickup truck, and the ride height of looking down is like being in a pickup truck, like any modern pickup truck or even a vintage pickup truck. So that's the feeling that you get in a car like this, of this size. But as far as cool factor goes, you're not going to get cooler than this. There's no way about it. I had this car out the other day, and I'm getting thumbs up from guys with Aston Martins and Porsches and Ferraris, and because, like I said, this is a unique, rare car. This is an iconic piece of American car history right here that was stylized after a lot of aviation influences after World War II. And the 57 Chevy is the most prolific interpretation of that style and period. Like I said, the brakes are not that good on these cars. And the power brake booster was an option, but this particular car doesn't have it. And it has a very authoritative horn, like most cars of the day. But you gotta have two hands on this wheel. The wheel feels like it's 18 inches in diameter. Oh God, this is such a throwback. And all right, guys, we just filled up the Bel Air. It took about $60 to get some gas in this thing, but this car just puts smiles on everyone's face as you drive by. It's just such a cool car, it really is. And to experience this in my line of work and being a collector and collecting cars, I mean, this is just so much fun to be the temporary caretaker of something like this. This is really, really a special moment that I'm trying to share with you guys on my channel. But the car drives beautiful, it really does. I mean, it's not perfect, but none of these old cars really are. But it's damn good enough to have some fun, I'll tell you that. Still recording? I wonder how the video is going to come out with all the bumps and bouncing up and down in this bench seat, but it's still cool. I mean, try to zoom in on the spears. The hood spears are so cool. I mean, not many cars have this much detail. Actually, no car today has this much detail. But just the curvature and the lumps and the aviation influence and the style of the hood, it's just so damn cool. It is so damn cool. I don't know, I may have to buy one of these. And kind of hot rod it a little bit. You know, this is one of the most popular cars to hot rod, where guys, they'll take an Art Morrison chassis and LS motor, and these things become really, really cool hot rods. Every input in a car this old is completely different than any modern car. It's unbelievable. When I get out of this car and then I jump into my Shelby, it's like stepping back 100 years in technology. But the brakes, the steering, everything in this car is really slow, and you got to be real careful with all your inputs. But other than that, I mean, it's still a really cool cruising car. and it's a perfect night, Labor Day weekend, and I figured I'd shoot a little review video and a test drive video for you guys. And considering how bad the roads are, it actually rides pretty good. That's because it's so heavy. It's built, you know, body on frame design, and it's got a very, you know, considerably long wheelbase for its day. And the aircraft jet styling is what makes this car truly unique and special. 61 years later. They called it the jet age of automotive manufacturing in America, whereas in Europe, you know, they were building really beautiful sports cars from BMW and Porsche and Ferrari, and the Americans kind of took a different approach and decided to build the biggest and flashiest cars and theme them with aircraft fin styling everywhere. It was like, you know, these were like theme cars. That's how you would consider it today, but that's what sold cars. You know, back then they needed a gimmick. You know, it was either performance or, you know, some very, very bold styling, and this was what it was. This guy's got to get out of the way. There's a big blue boat on its way. And these cars make really, really popular and good hot rods. And you'll go on eBay or any website and you'll see more than a dozen of these any given day with Art Morrison chassis and LS motors and, you know, billet wheels. And it's just a cool platform that I'm actually considering building one for myself because I actually really like this car. I haven't driven a 55 to 57 Bel Air in about 8 years. So this was a lot of fun to get behind the wheel of one again and really experience it, share it with you guys. Oh, it's beautiful out, right? Yeah.
We should go into town.
Yeah, it's a perfect night for a... Hey, there's Evan's truck.
Does he live here?
No, he's parking it here. What is he doing over here with this thing? Is he in it? No.
I love his car.
It's funny, right? Wow, he parks it all the way over here. It's a little bit of a walk for him.
It's a big car.
Well, everything is good. Gauges look good. Got plenty of oil. Gasoline is fine. Tire pressure is fine. And that's one of the things, guys, when you have a vintage car that's this old, here's this other car, you have to, you really have to pay attention to all the vitals of the car. The fluids, the tire pressure, make sure nothing's loose, nothing's hanging off the bottom of the car, because these things require constant maintenance. And that's why a classic car is not for every owner. You have to really be able to tinker with them or have a team that's going to be with you every step of the way so you can actually enjoy the car. Otherwise, you're just going to go crazy and be disgusted owning one. So fortunately for me, I've owned so many of them since I'm a teenager that it just becomes a hobby, and the frustration and getting stuck and everything else just becomes part of the overall experience that I enjoy once in a while. You know, the smiles that this car gives, the thumbs up, it's just cool. It's just so cool. So to actually experience this at my age, you know, my mid-40s, and you know, it's really a unique experience, and that's why so many people love these cars, and a lot of these are getting shipped overseas, you know, to Japan, to Germany, to Norway. So yeah, I mean, everywhere you go, people just smile and give you thumbs up. It's just so damn cool. Now, if you're not into getting attention, don't get a 57 Bel Air in tropical turquoise. Because look at this. I mean, look, these guys across the way, they're just like, wow, look at that. So we're just going to cruise around locally. We're not going to go too far. There's just so much congestion for the holiday, and I don't want to deal with it. And with the bias ply tires, you got to be real careful going around a turn, because this car floats and rolls so much that, like I said, your input's got to be really, really slow and tenacious. Otherwise, you're going to end up going in the wrong lane or spinning this car around. But yeah, it's so comfortable. And sitting in the car is like sitting in a pickup truck. You're sitting up high in a big bench seat, and the view over the hood is just like being in a pickup truck. So if anybody wants to know how does it feel to drive one of these, but there's plenty of room. There's not a lot of headroom. You know, the size of this car is deceiving. People were a lot shorter in society, I guess, back in the days. I mean, if you get into some of the 50s Corvettes and stuff, you can't even fit in the car. The steering wheel hits you in the stomach or the legs. You have to figure out, like, how did anybody even drive those cars back then if you were, you know, 5'10" or above? I don't know how it was even possible physically. But this car is big, but it's not as wide as, let's say, my Shelby GT350 or some modern cars today. It's deceiving because of the ride height, and, you know, the proportions are so different. But if you're not careful getting in the car with when the roof is up, you will bang your head into the convertible top frame quite easily. And the power steering is beyond over-assisted. See, thumbs up, man, everywhere you go. Here we go. Even young kids that don't even understand these cars, they love them, you know, and that's what's really cool about it. So it's universally popular and universally loved. It puts a smile on everyone's face. You start a conversation, you make new friends at a car show or grabbing coffee. That's why owning a classic car from the 50s is a special experience. So. Everybody likes this car. Who doesn't like this car?
He's cute. How cute is that
right?
kid?
He's like, I really like your car. It actually runs better without
That's a little kid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, you know, some young kids, they're into the exotic cars, the import cars, whatever, but this, regardless, it's unique. It's the color, it's the flash, it's the chrome. You know, it's everything that we don't have today. I mean, I'm telling you, Dave, you pull this up to an exotic car, everybody's going to stare at this.
Yeah.
And that's why growing up in high school, you know, when I was younger, I always was like, you know, I didn't want a Corvette, couldn't afford the insurance. So what do you have as a young teenager that's cool? A classic car. It's easy to work on, affordable, and it's a head turner. And always a convertible, so it's, you know, good resale value. And that's just really how I got into it. My dad, you know, was always into it, and I grew up with classic cars. So for any of you guys out there, I mean, if you guys want a toy, I mean, you can't really go wrong with spending money on something like this. I'd rather see you guys, you know, spend 50 to 100 grand on a classic car than go out and lease like a BMW M5 and pay $2,000 a month or something like that you're never going to get that money back. So, word of advice from someone that's, you know, been there and done it and owned over 52 cars. You know, I'd rather see you guys invest money in something like this. It's a tangible asset. It's only going to go up in value. It's easy to work on. You don't need no computers. And it's a really good experience, especially like father-son projects and stuff like that. I mean, the manual drum brakes, they're not that effective in this car. You gotta be real careful. That's why I'm driving so slow. Hey guys, just got back from about a 1-hour drive in the 57 Bel Air. Hope you guys got a little bit of a feel for what it is to drive a car that's 61 years old. And let me tell you something, it's not easy between the inputs, between the buyer's ply tires, the shitty manual drum brakes. This car does not stop. I was in the video, and towards the end, I'm going down the steepest area of our village, and I was actually really scared. The car was not stopping at all. So if any of you guys buy a classic car, upgrade the tires to radials, do a power disc brake conversion, do a couple of little things to make a car more enjoyable, and always save the original parts in case you want to sell it one day to a purist. But it's fun. It's an experience. These cars are a great investment, and you're not going to lose money on this car or any classic car of this era. This car right here is a $100,000 car right now as it sits. And if we do all the stuff that I want to do to the car, it'll probably bring it up to about 130 grand when I'm done with it. So, you know, it's a tangible asset. They're going up in value. You can have fun with it. They're head turners. They're easy to work on, readily available to get into your parts. And these things are just great, man. You could see from getting out of this car and then I jumped back into the Shelby, the difference is it's incomparable. You really have to feel it. You really have to drive one of these cars and then drive a really good high-performance car from today's generation to really appreciate the progression of technology and advancements in automotive manufacturing and design. But it's unbelievable. So you guys can probably see, I'll get the camera, you know, there's the Bel Air and there's the Shelby. And believe it or not, the Shelby is definitely wider. So the looks are deceiving and the proportions are deceiving. But two very, very, very different cars altogether. But it was a hell of a lot of fun, and I enjoy sharing this stuff with you guys. So I'm going to leave this video like this for my older audience, or any, you guys out there that have passion for vintage cars of the 50s and 60s. Post your feedback, post your comments. I want to hear your stories below. This is really cool. Make sure you check out my website, autofanatic.com. Post a link in the description. I'm going to do some stories in the lifestyle news section on this car, on the 1950s, regarding automotive styling and how automotive manufacturers at the time chose aviation-inspired styling to sell cars, because that was their marketing gimmick back in the late 1950s, and it worked. The Europeans took a completely different approach to automotive styling. Like I said, this is a very unique experience for any of you guys to ever have a part of enjoying. I know you guys probably go to some car shows, you see these things at shows, but to get in one and drive it around locally on the same roads that you drive your daily driver or your high-performance toy, this thing is a total throwback. Highly suggest you think about picking up a classic car as an investment. These things have great intrinsic value. They're only going up. And if you pick the right car, it's got to be a drop top, it's got to be the right color, you're only going to increase your chances of flipping it down the road from now and making a profit. And in the meantime, you could actually enjoy it. So, don't go out there and spend $2 grand a month to go lease a fancy car. I'd rather see you guys spend, 100 grand on something like this, that, in a couple of years, if you get tired of it and you want something new, you flip it, you make your profit, and you move on and get something new. So any questions, comments, post them below. I want to hear your stories. Post them in the comment section below, or email me direct if you guys had any of these cars growing up, or your father had one, or you go to car shows and you love these cars. I want to hear about it. And make sure you check out my website, autofanatic.com. And see you guys soon for another review and automotive content to share with the world. See you soon.